As German jackboots goose-step their way across Europe, thousands of miles away in the Himalayan foothills, a very different kind of march is taking place. Dozens of men in traditional Nepalese dress move in synchronized steps as they wind their way along a narrow mountain trail, bamboo poles balanced across their shoulders. Suspended above them is a curious object that barely anyone in this remote country has ever seen before: a car. Yet it's not just any car. It's a gleaming, brand new Mercedes Benz, a special gift from one of the most powerful men in the world. But why would Adolf Hitler send a luxury automobile to a country without roads? In the late 1930s, as Adolf Hitler's Third Reich expanded across Europe, the Nazi leadership became increasingly obsessed with an idea that seemed to belong more to fantasy than reality: that somewhere in the remote mountains of Tibet, the last pure-blooded Aryans still lived, untouched by the modern world. This wasn't mere curiosity. For Heinrich Himmler, the architect of the SS and future mastermind of the Holocaust, Tibet represented something profound, a possible gateway to ancient wisdom and supernatural power that could help Germany conquer the world. Himmler had founded a research organization called the Ahnenerbe in 1935, dedicated to studying what the Nazis believed was the glorious past of the Aryan race. According to their twisted ideology, a superior Nordic people had once lived in the legendary city of Atlantis, keeping their bloodline pure. When Atlantis was destroyed, these Aryans scattered across the globe, but most mixed with local populations and lost their supposed superiority. Tibet, however, was different. Its extreme altitude and geographical isolation made Himmler believe that groups of pure-blooded Aryans might have survived there, maintaining their racial purity for thousands of years in hidden mountain communities. To prove this theory, Himmler needed someone capable of leading an expedition into one of the most inhospitable regions on Earth. He found his man in Ernst Schaefer, a talented 28-year-old zoologist who had already conducted 2 expeditions to Tibet and China. Schaefer was a skilled hunter and naturalist who had earned respect in scientific circles, but he was also an SS officer, which made him the perfect candidate for Himmler's purposes. In early 1938, as German troops prepared to march into Austria and the world moved ever closer toward war, Schaefer began planning what would become one of the strangest scientific expeditions in history, a journey that would blur the lines between legitimate research and Nazi racial pseudo-science. On April 21, 1938, Ernst Schaefer and his 4-man team departed from Genoa, Italy, bound for the Himalayas. The expedition included Bruno Beger, an anthropologist tasked with measuring Tibetan skulls, Karl Weinert, a geophysicist, Ernst Krauss, an entomologist and filmmaker, and Edmund Geer, the team's technical manager. All were also SS officers. But before they even reached Asia, the expedition ran into trouble. When the Nazi propaganda newspaper Volkische Beobachter announced their departure with the headline, "SS Expedition Leaves for Uncharted Regions of Tibet," British authorities in India immediately grew suspicious. Instead of scientists, they saw potential spies. They denied the Germans entry permits, forcing Schaefer into weeks of delicate negotiations in Calcutta. Eventually, through a combination of Schaefer's charm and diplomatic pressure from Berlin, including a letter from Himmler to his friend, British Admiral Barry Domville, permission was reluctantly granted. The expedition finally entered Tibet in December 1938, their Nazi flags tied to pack animals as they trekked through the snow. In January 1939, they reached Lhasa, the holy city that few Europeans had ever seen. For 2 months, they lived among Tibetan officials and nobility, documenting daily life. Bega conducted his anthropological work, measuring the skulls and facial features of 376 Tibetans, making plaster casts of heads and faces, all in search of so-called Aryan characteristics. Meanwhile, Schaefer collected thousands of plant specimens and animal skins. Krauss filmed everything, over 18,000 meters of footage, capturing a Tibet that would soon vanish forever. But as spring turned to summer, urgent letters from Germany began arriving. War was coming. Nevertheless, Hitler's interest in the Himalayas was far from over. The Fuhrer realized that the entire Himalayan region could prove to be of enormous strategic importance. Nepal and Tibet sat on the northern border of British India, the jewel in the crown of Britain's empire. If Germany could cultivate relationships with local rulers, it might create pressure points against the British, or even secure allies for the coming war. This was undoubtedly the reason why the same year as Schaefer's expedition, the Führer sent King Tribhuvan of Nepal an extraordinary and unexpected gift, a brand new Mercedes Benz. The gift was intended to impress. Cars were virtually unheard of in Nepal, while Germany's automotive industry represented the pinnacle of modern engineering, and a Mercedes Benz was more than just a vehicle. It was a symbol of technological supremacy and industrial might. Nevertheless, it was an utterly impractical choice of gift to send to a country with almost no roads. Nepal's capital, Kathmandu, sat in a mountain valley several days' walk from the nearest accessible point. There was no way to simply drive the Mercedes to its destination. The solution required dozens of Nepalese porters. The Mercedes was partially disassembled and loaded onto bamboo poles. Then, in a scene captured in one of history's most striking photographs, the men hoisted the luxury vehicle onto their shoulders and began their arduous trek through the Himalayan foothills. The image is remarkable. Rows of men in traditional dress, carrying a symbol of Western industrial power through an ancient landscape. The journey took over a week as the porters navigated steep trails, crossed rivers, and climbed mountain passes. When the Mercedes finally reached Kathmandu and was reassembled, it became one of the first motorized vehicles in the remote mountain kingdom. King Tribhuvan reportedly drove it regularly through the limited streets of his capital. After World War II ended and the Nazi regime collapsed, the Mercedes seemed to fade into obscurity, along with so many other relics of that era. King Tribhuvan continued to rule Nepal until his passing in 1955, and for years, the car's fate attracted little attention from historians or collectors. Then, in 2008, as Nepal underwent dramatic political changes, the story of Hitler's gift suddenly resurfaced. A specially elected assembly, dominated by Maoist former rebels, voted to abolish the 239-year-old monarchy, and King Gyanendra, Tribhuvan's grandson, was forced to vacate the royal palace, which was converted into a museum. Government officials inventorying the royal property claimed they had found the legendary Mercedes. According to their account, the vintage 1938 automobile had spent years at an engineering college in Kathmandu, where students used it to study mechanics. By the time it was placed in storage at the old palace garage, the car was reported to be in terrible condition. Doors damaged, seats torn, the bonnet barely attached. In 2010, Ministry of Culture official motorized announced ambitious plans to restore both the Mercedes and the royal chariot at the cost of over $500,000. The idea was to allow museum visitors to ride in the car and experience a piece of Nepal's extraordinary history. But the restoration never happened. Funds never materialized, and the car disappeared from public view once again. However, the story took an unexpected turn when a 92-year-old woman came forward with a completely different account. Janak Rajya Lakshmi Shah, daughter of former Nepalese Prime Minister Judha Shumsher Rana, claimed that Hitler had actually given the Mercedes to her father, not to King Tribhuvan. According to Shah, the gift was intended to win over Nepal's fearsome Gurkha soldiers for the Nazi cause during World War II. She insisted that when her father left office in 1945, he took the car with him to Dehradun, India. After his passing, Shah says that she inherited the vehicle herself and drove it for nearly 2 decades before leaving it with her brother when she returned to Nepal in 1966. However, she was unable to say what had happened to it after that. To this day, nobody knows for certain where Hitler's Mercedes actually is, or if it even still exists. The car that made one of history's most remarkable journeys, carried on the shoulders of dozens of men through the Himalayas, has simply vanished. Perhaps it rusts in some forgotten garage in Kathmandu. Perhaps it sits in India, its connection to Hitler long forgotten. Or perhaps it was dismantled decades ago, its parts scattered across the subcontinent. The mystery of Hitler's gift to the Himalayas remains unsolved.